Now we'll just call upon Matthew Monk. Matthew Monk's working for 12D UK, just to say a little bit about what's going on over in that region. He probably won't mention Ireland at all, since it's almost sinking into the sea. Nothing much is happening at all. So just hand over to Matthew Monk, who looks after 12D from the UK, but also through the Middle East region, which is where most of the action is happening.
Okay, so yeah, I'm based in London, working for 12D UK, and I cover Europe, Middle East, Africa. So the role that Joel was previously doing, I'm now doing. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what's happening in those regions and show you some of the example projects that we're using. So, UK, Ireland and Europe. You might have heard a bit about the financial crisis, the whole Eurozone uncertainty, Greece, Spain, Portugal, they're all in a bit of trouble. And so that's all, I guess, putting a bit of uncertainty and low confidence in the whole region. As a result, UK construction declining in 2011 and flat in 2012. To go along with those sorts of austerity measures, cuts in public expenditure. So the government's no longer spending money on infrastructure projects. Okay? There is slow and gradual growth predicted, but once again the whole uncertainty surrounding the Eurozone just sort of makes it, unsure. A lot of uncertainty there. In the region we have about 50 clients. Most of those are in the UK. We do have some in Ireland and one or two in Europe on the continent. As a result of the economic crisis, most of the expats, so the Aussies and the Kiwis that used to be over there, most of those have left, come back to home shores. So what that means is that most of the users there now are locals. Okay? Since there's not a lot of work there in the region, they're actually looking to other markets to get work. Middle East and Africa are the main ones. And one of the unusual results of the current economic situation is that they're actually looking at working on Australian jobs. So sometimes it's a bit of a, outsourcing resource. So yeah, I never thought that would happen with UK being an outsourced location. Here's just an example project from one of our clients, Ground Developments. Julius Newman, for anyone who knows him, works for Ground Developments, and he's helping us, try to advance their survey in the region. So Scotland and Northern England is where they're based, and they sort of do site enabling, earthworks, stabilisation, drainage and roads. One of the main challenges in the region is the poor soil quality, waterlogged and a lot of peat. So there's a lot of treatment that needs to go on before they actually get these sites to be built on. So they're using 12D as an integral part of that to manage all these soil layers and all the volumes. So they're also using it for design, set out, as built. They're using 12D field, so I think that's the first 12D field in the region. They're a bit behind in their survey practices, so hopefully that's the first of many to come. And also machine automation, which is, once again, not too often used. Here's just some screenshots. You can see they're modelling all the layers, utilities, all the roads inside 12D. Here's another example project just from Waterman, who are one of our big clients in the UK. Invermorriston Jetty, so this is a new jetty just for loading and unloading cargo on Loch Ness. Okay, and 12D is just being used to model roads and earthworks. It's not a complex job, but they're using it, volumes, and it helps them a lot compared to the traditional way of simply doing it the manual way. Okay, so that's pretty much what's happening in UK and Europe. On to Africa. We have a few local clients, not a lot. The ones that are there are mostly also based in UK, Europe, out of London mostly. Most of the work there is on mining projects in West Africa. So all the main players are there, BHP, Rio Tinto and Chinalco, so the Chinese, are doing a fair lot of development there. So one of these projects is Seaman Do. It's the southeastern mountainous region of Guinea. It is planned to become the largest iron ore mine and infrastructure project ever in Africa. Rio Tinto's the developer and SKM's doing the engineering design. This is SKM in the UK, but they also fly out every 6 weeks down. They've got a site office actually in the region. Just to give you an idea, for those who don't know where Guinea is, west coast of Africa, and Seaman Do there is tucked away in the corner. Just a bit about the mine. Estimated yield of 2.25 billion tonnes. So the mine is expected to have a capacity of close to 100 million tonnes a year. As part of all this work, there's a plan to build 650 kilometres of railway to get all the ore from the mountainous region. If we go back, so from Seaman Do all the way to the coast, and as part of that, building a new deep water port. So it's a massive project. Okay, so SKM are doing the roads and earthworks effectively to support the exploration work. It's only just begun, so it's in early stages, but they're doing all the site enabling works at the moment. Some of the challenges, very mountainous terrain, tropical sort of rainfall, and there's no infrastructure there at the moment. So a bit of a logistical nightmare, that one. Here's just some shots of the sort of terrain they're working in. That mine on the left, they helicoptered all in, simply because there's no access roads. And you can imagine what these sorts of roads on the right actually become after a bit of rain. So that's Africa. Onto the Middle East. There is a slowdown in the contracts that have been awarded. It used to be quite crazy in the Middle East, particularly in the UAE, but they've been a bit more cautious as a result of the whole global financial crisis. As a result of the slowdown in the contracts awarded, the market's become a lot more competitive. And as a result, we see that as an opportunity for 12D to improve these processes. There's a shift from, I guess, property sector and the private residential sort of developments onto infrastructure and government spending. The main growth areas in the Middle East are Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Qatar, with the World Cup coming up, need to do a lot of work to get their country to a decent enough level. So there are still large projects around. They're just not at the crazy levels they were a few years ago. Okay? Having said that, they're massive projects. They don't do things in small ways. So we're seeing a growing interest and awareness of 12D. Part of our role is trying to get people, first of all, to know about 12D and then to use it. So we are seeing a lot of increased awareness there. One of the challenges there we have is trying to push the use of 3D models. A lot of the projects they'll have design, they'll produce their 3D models, but then they'll give 2D drawings, DWG if they're lucky, otherwise PDF, to the contractor, who then has to rebuild the 3D model from these drawings. So there's a lot of inefficiencies there, but we've got a new CAD to construction course. Phil Davies helped put that together, and that's effectively taking 2D plans and rebuilding the 3D model for construction. So they can do all their volume checks, redesign if they need to, and also there's a lot of emphasis on modelling all the drainage and utilities so they can identify clash checks before they go out there on site. So here's an example project from the region, Refinery Expansion, and our client is Zublin. Okay, so it's an expansion of an oil refinery complex, doubling of it, the production capacity, and the sort of value you're looking at is $10 billion. Like I said, no small projects in the region. So Zublin are one of those examples of a contractor, so they're not designers, but they are actually effectively modelling the entire project. Okay, so they're creating the 3D model so they can set it out, do all their checks. Clashes, so they've got trees, all the foundations, everything that they need to check for clashes, they've actually had to model in 12D. Here's an example of some quick visualisation. Okay, so you can see all the underground services there, footings, all sorts of trenches, trees and the like. Okay, here's another screenshot showing the same sort of thing. Okay, another project from the region is Khalifa Port, an industrial zone. Massive project, but this particular aspect I'm going to talk about is being done by Leighton. We actually have Bishnu, who's actually come all the way from the UAE. So he's using 12D over there and helping us use it on this project. So it's the sort of project, it's 5 phases, 20-year period. And the first phase is just about done. It involves a port, reclaimed island, 3.2 kilometres of quay, 1 kilometre bridge. And the industrial zone is pretty much the next stage, and that's 420 square kilometres. Hab2 Leighton Group, HLG. So they've been awarded the infrastructure and buildings packages. So they're doing 12 million cubes of earthworks, 18 kilometres of 3, 4, 5 and 6 lane dual carriageways. They don't really do roads less than 3 lanes, 4 bridges and 160 kilometres of services. Okay. So they're using 12D for volumes and site set out and also for those design modifications. So once again they're taking 2D information and rebuilding up their model. Okay. They're also using it for construction, upload to the instruments, conformance reporting and a lot of machine automation. When you're talking about these large projects, machine automation is one of those things that can speed up and get you efficiencies. So, some of the trends that we're seeing in the region, a lot of increased competition for work. As a result, there's a lot of need to streamline these processes, and that's where 12D comes in, more efficiencies gained in design and construction. Okay? We're trying to increase productivity, reduce the risk and lower costs. And we're trying to put the emphasis on technology rather than manpower. Manpower, particularly in the Mid East, is very cheap. So traditionally they've just thrown manpower at things. We're trying to get them to work smarter, I guess. So trying to advance the survey and construction methods. 12D field, we're trying to push. Graham Worth comes out and visits a lot in the Mid East. So he's trying to push 12D field to sort of get some of these efficiencies. Like I said before, we sold our first 12D field licence in the UK. There's more high-end survey equipment being used and machine automation is increasing. So these are all some of the trends and it's a big opportunity for us to get in and help these guys streamline their processes. And also encouraging the use of electronic 3D models. Just quickly mention some upcoming projects. It's pretty much all rail. Rail and more rail. Here's some of the projects we've got. I'll go through each in a bit more detail. This is throughout the region. So High Speed 2. It's high speed rail from London up to Birmingham for the first phase. 140 miles, £16 billion. That's pretty much the only major projects they've got on. Contracts being awarded currently. And, another £16 billion in the future. That's sort of a diagram of where it's going. So the red part's the first phase that they will be starting soon and then pushing up with the Y network in phase 2. The Doha Metro, once again as part of this World Cup bid, Doha, the capital of Qatar, are building a metro system, so a rail network. The first phase there is 22 kilometres of tunnels, 15 stations, and of course that has to be built before the World Cup. All the connections there, also connecting to other rail systems in the region, and that's currently in tender phase at the moment. Okay, Etihad Rail, this is a rail network linking all the 7 Emirates of the UAE. $11 billion of project, 1,200 kilometres of rail. Okay, that's an example of where it's going to go. linking all the Emirates there. And finally, the Gulf Railway. So this is linking all the 6 Gulf countries, all the way from Kuwait to Oman. $30 billion project, expect to be complete by 2017, but I've got doubts about that one. All up, they're looking at about $100 billion worth of rail projects in the region. Okay, that's showing you where the Gulf Railway is planned to go. So, just in closing, jobs. There's a high demand for 12DUs in the Mid East. There's also opportunities in the UK, despite the fact that there's not a lot of work projects there. 12DUs are still needed there. So yeah, if you are interested in working in either Mid East or UK, come see me. Okay, thank you very much.
When you've got a client with a $10 billion project, you don't need too many of those. Thanks, Matthew. So yes, for all those who are going overseas for their sabbatical, or for your young people heading off for their 2 years, there are still positions over there for you to go to.